Goes to and Governor Huckabee can speak to this, the value of having all these big-name, well-known surrogates. And I don't mean Beyonce and Jay and Cher, who says she's going to leave the planet if Donald Trump wins. But
she's going to Australia, right?
No, she said, I'm going to leave the planet.
Is she on the planet? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
She's going to go to the moon?
Where's she going? But having President Obama and the First Lady and Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and all of these people out there campaigning for you, at the same time in critical battleground states, it does give her an advantage, does it not?
Well, I'll tell you what it does. It takes attention away from her, and that's good, because if they have to listen to her speech, that's not good. If you heard that little speech she gave yesterday in the rain that got rained out, and I think the people were spared when the rain came, she made Howard Dean sound like Mr. Rogers. It was absolutely stunning. She was just screaming at the crowd. And, of course, the New York Slimes
screeching a lot, right?
Wonderful things to say about how joyful.
But she's losing her voice. She's
What's that?
Yeah.
I understand that, but there's also something. I've been hoarse. I've, had to raise my pitch before. But I'm also telling you, if you listen, it's not like she's communicating and connecting. She is just screaming out the lines. I feel like I'm being yelled at.
Well, so you do have a microphone. Well, I mean, it is true. She's made the decision to have her approach, Governor, as attacking Trump. I mean, in these final days of, as people take in everything and they're about to go to the polls, you have to give people something to vote for, not to vote against. And she's not giving anybody the specifics on what we would vote for. He keeps talking about his plan. He's staying on script. He's giving people something to vote for. I think that has a lot to do with it. But look at this most recent poll, the Washington Post ABC News tracking poll. It still has Hillary Clinton leading Donald Trump by 5 points. Clinton's got 48%, Governor. Trump's got 43%. If you remember at the beginning of last week, this race was locked at 46%. So what caused this shift?
Well, that's one poll from the Washington Compost, and that may be accurate, it may not be. But you have a lot of other polls in the battleground states showing that Donald Trump is either caught up with her or he's surging ahead, and I still believe. I was in Pennsylvania yesterday with Rick Perry and Governor Phil Bryant of Mississippi. The intensity of the crowds, the focus, these were people who less than 12 hours before got notice that there was even going to be a gathering. What I see is that there are a lot of Trump supporters who are vocal about it, but there are a lot more that are dedicated to voting for Trump, but they're not going to tell anybody because they don't want to make the people in their union mad. They don't want to make their neighbors mad. They don't want to make their family mad.
Well, we've seen what happens to people if they're wearing a Make America Great hat, right? We've seen what happens to people. They get shamed, beaten up. Look at the vandalism we saw yesterday.
If they put a yard sign up,
you can't wear it in some of these Ivy League schools, even though half the people are voting for them.
I'm going to give a girlfriend of mine, Carrie Pinnell, a shout-out because I know she posted on Facebook the other day that she was going to the grocery store wearing her I'm voting for Trump t-shirt. She said, I dare anybody to come up to me and say anything. She lives in a town down south that is divided. I wouldn't mess with Carrie. I wouldn't mess with Carrie. I wouldn't even look at her wrong. So I'm sure she was fine. But again, that's the most passionate Trump supporters. That's their attitude. I want to bring up something though, because a couple weeks ago when Trump wasn't doing better in the polls were all wrong and crooked and unbalanced, and now all the Trump supporters can do nothing but brag about the surge in the polls. Come on, give me a break.
He said
Scaramucci.
Come on, he said something yesterday. It was fantastic. He basically said, I only like the polls where I look good in them, and so that's his political flair these days. Look, the polls are all over. The polls are all over the place. Sean Hannity said something the other night, which I agree with. I sort of trust the polls, but this year has been very different. Brexit was 52-48 the other way, and you had an 8-point swing. It went 52-48 to Brexit, Dagen. So it's very hard to understand these polls and the methodology this year.
So what does early voting tell us, Governor? Because it's the last day of early voting. Many people are experiencing long lines, especially in California. Watch this. Got to get your reaction.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody thinks Donald Trump is in play in California, so I don't care if everybody in California votes. It ain't going to change the electoral map. What we've got to look at is what happens in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, certainly Florida. Florida has had a record turnout in early voting, and, I don't know that some people say, well, that's all going to be for Hillary. I don't buy that. The area of Florida in which I currently live, it's going to be 80% for Trump. 80% of the panhandle of Florida. And, yeah, the lines have been longer. They've been the record turnout in early voting, and it ain't going for Hillary. I can guarantee you that.
But higher Latino turnout, particularly in Florida, which we've been talking about, Governor, which favors the Democrats because these are people, these are Latinos from Puerto Rico. Historically, it's been Cuban Americans who favored the Republican Party, but this is different. This time is different. Florida, Clinton, the Real Clear Politics average, Florida, Clinton leads though by 1.2% percentage points. So it's a margin of error.
The Latino vote in Florida is certainly going to be better, but there's also a depressed African American vote because there's nothing to be excited about. I mean, look at the situation they're in. Your previous guest made that very clear, and I don't see how people who are out of a job, who are living in poverty, who are on food stamps, could go vote for someone who basically thinks they're deplorable, irredeemable, the great unwashed, the people for whom she has contempt because they're people of faith.
Yeah.
You know, what has Hillary got to give them? What does she have for them? I mean, she's got nothing.
Isn't that interesting? She's got all of these celebrities, Jay-Z, Timpf, she's got Katy Perry, as Dagen said, Cher the other day. And yet, here's the reaction. And she's got nothing.
Also, I think a lot of millennials, that she's trying so hard to be cool. She's trying to do what Obama did. But Obama, that works for him. He's a funny guy. He's a charming guy. She just looks like desperate, sad, trying to be a cool grandmother. To me, I think it's pathetic and embarrassing.
All right.
In my opinion.
And you're one of those millennials that we try to get a sense of what younger people are doing. Governor, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much.